everybody, I'm Christine the Main. It is the 16th of March and we've got another set of Clash of Clans esports news for you today. First, let's talk about players and teams. Lots of news here. So first of all, we had SNT Elite announcing their roster. It says they will try to achieve their goals with Caribou and Orion and Ram and Thor and Yasin and Suf. So this will be fun to watch SNT Elite show up. We had an announcement from the Realm of Terror. I think that most of these players were already playing with Realm of Terror, with the exception perhaps of Infinity GB. So they've added Infinity along with Guti and Kian and Wounded and Kevin and Shide, of course. We have Jesse, who is tweeting out that Jesse is saying goodbye to Clash of Clans. Now, this is just a couple of weeks after I announced something with him and Tigers of War, I think. So something must not have gone very well there. Sorry to see that. We had McKensroe and Risty announcing last night that Lando has joined Unfair Warfare. And we have a whole bunch of players looking for teams to compete in Worlds. We got Stana up there saying retirements suck. Here we go again. DM me. We have Leon Bush, who's posting SCCWL stats and saying, hey, I want the golden ticket. Titoan looking for a team. Muda looking for a team. Grisha looking for a team. There's a lot of players out there looking for teams to attempt a run on Worlds. Next, let's look at the World Championships. Going to take a little break from rules. We're not going to talk about rules again until we get closer to May. But the March warm-up is starting, and it's the 20th and 21st, so it's just this coming weekend when the March warm-up will happen. And I have not seen an official announcement of the clans that are participating, but we have seen this list that's floating around like crazy on Discord, which has the 8 from the last World Finals: Altered Attacks, Darkest Mujan, 11 Original, HT Family, Nishang Dance, Queen Walkers, Vitang, and Existence/Tompanai. And then we've got the 8 tops from SCCWL, EM Legion Divina, Hanoi Royals, JX Tigers, MCES, Mujan 2, NGT Legends, Sky Stars, WTK. And then we've got a list of 8 invited teams: Aphelion Esports, Cream Real Betis, Indian Clashers, Method to Madness, Space Station Gaming, Tribe Gaming, Unicorns of Love, and Vanguard Gaming. So you look at this list, and there's some to me that seem like they're obviously missing, and maybe I would have slotted in a little differently. Penta, Badzinger, Nolex, Carnage, QSFN. I think those are all kind of in the mix and not here. And then there's some that I'm not, it looks like there might be doubles. So it'll be interesting to see which clans are actually showing up and whether or not this list from Discord is correct. And some of you already know this already, but I do not, so I can still speculate. Moving on to leagues and tournaments. A lot of news here too. First of all, we had the Black Widow crowned a champion. The NGT Legends are the champions of the Black Widow Cup. Celino Bernal, Petalino, Vitor Almeida, and Aquiles were that team that won and beat out Activity for the final championship. The Vedic Cup final happened. Now, who won this, I don't know. I could not find an announcement about who won the Vedic Cup final, but the final did happen between the Beast and Brute Force. Clash Champs Cup playoffs are happening at the semifinals level shortly. Unicorns of Love versus Method to Madness, MCES versus Aphelion Esports. So you'll see Nishang Dance, Tribe Gaming, the M2 Ninja, and Space Station all got beaten in the quarterfinals. So that should be fun to watch that one finally play out. We have the CCF Excellency, which I could not find a more updated bracket, but I believe the 4 clans that are left in the playoffs here are L'Astronor, MB Riders, Reapers Esport, and Contract Killers. We have the WCL. They're playing the round of 16 right now, and it is M2 Ninja versus Mitten Nepal, Beneka versus Cutie Mary, Titan Esports versus BD Clashers, Evil Witches versus Contract Killers, Invictus Realm versus N-Play GTZ Bulls, Badzinger versus Barat, Badzinger 2 versus the Bushido on Fire Esports, and Darkjack versus Nordic Company. So those are the 16 teams that are still in the WCL. Pitt is also playing its round of 16. And we've got there Fairy Tale BR versus Aphelion Esport, Silent Snipers versus Badzinger, WHF versus Unicorns of Love, Space Station versus M2 Ninja, the Uman Manda versus Queen of War, Syria Paradise versus Rockers Esports, Star War versus KOG, and Activity versus QSFN. So still a number of very good clans in Pitt as well. Carry Esport announced their top 16 teams. Now, I don't know all of these logos, and some of them are really, really hard to read. But those are the top 16. Like, I see this Marcos Gaming, and I see Team Pushers here, BD Clashers, Clan of Ghost. I think that's Indian Tribes logo. But it's a little hard for me to discern all these just from the logos because I do not know all those logos. Top 16 for carries right there. The 187 Family Cup crowned Alternate Attacks as the winner of the 187 Family Cup, with Inquisition in second and Try Me in third. So congratulations to Alternate Attacks on that win. Boom. Boom is now in the round of 32 for their playoffs. So that's just a cut out of the bracket tool. But they are in round of 32. We'll see who's left next week. The Hurricane Cup. Now, this is new on my radar, so I missed out that this was even happening until now, but we're down to about the round of 16 on the Hurricane Cup, and there's a number of names in here that are well known and some that are not, so it's interesting to see Snipe the Hype versus AAA Esports, and then, right under that you've got Betatron versus Zepto. So it's very interesting to see what's going on here in the Hurricane Cup. We'll keep tracking that. MLCW this week made their clan announcements. 96 clans were announced with 3 time blocks. Okay, limited entries is what was announced. There were 3 time blocks, but only 96 clans. And so there were literally hundreds of disappointments. I think they turned away more clans than they let in, as best as I can tell. And there were a lot of clans very disappointed. We have the Frontline Cup with announced their clans this week that will be participating. There's too many there to read. We have news from the Champions Mix Cup. Okay, so I've talked about this for a couple of weeks. Again, the Clash affiliation server just completely went dead right before they were supposed to be deploying a bracket of 64. So I want to put a huge shout out to the Top Warriors Cup server and team there. TWC worked really hard to make sure that they were able to restore the prize pool to this mixed cup as it was originally intended. They are now going to run 2 64-team brackets out of the Top Warriors Cup server. And I don't know how to say this person's name, but whoever that is and White Angel have really stepped up and filled the gap that was left when Clash affiliations basically stopped, just went dead. So huge shout out to Top Warriors Cup for picking up the pieces of that and moving it forward despite the trouble. All right, the league roundup. We have UWL, MWL, and the Wizard Cup all in week 1. Event Hub, Champs League, and the Olympians Cup in week 2. We have the Diamond League from the Town Hall 13 community and Global Clash Cup in week 4. EYG is just starting out their Pro Div playoffs. And then we have the Indian Clan War League starting soon. And just a little discussion about that. There are still 2 more days to sign up for this league. The ICWL and the Indian Gaming League together putting it on Now, I think it's fairly complicated to sign up because they actually have a YouTube video about how to sign up. Most of the time it's pretty straightforward and you don't need a YouTube video. So it might be fairly complicated. But if you're willing to work through all the complications to sign up, this structure has 10 days of qualifiers starting on March 21st, and then that'll play down from the round of 256 down to 16. They will then add 16 invite teams, so there will be a 32 team bracket that will play throughout April. And again, there are 2 more days to sign up for that. So that's it for the news. Contrarian Clasher, I only have one thing to talk about. Well, 2. Okay, so first thing, those MLCW clan announcements. Somebody said to me, hey, I can't wait to see you go off on MLCW in your news video. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I mean, MLCW has every right to bring only 96 clans in to their esports division. The mistake that they made is when they put out the announcement, they said it was limited entries. They didn't say how limited. There are a whole bunch of clans that if they know there's only 96 accepted and that you've already got 156 applications, they're like, yeah, I'm never going to make it. And they wouldn't fill it out and they wouldn't take the time. So the only mistake I think MLCW made here is not really making it clear how selective they were going to be. And a lot of times clans will self-sort out. If you know you're not going to make it in a pool of 96, you just don't fill out the paperwork, you don't get your hopes up. The problem is getting hopes up and then killing all of those hopes. So it's not really a critique of MLCW so much as a piece of advice. Next time, just be a little bit more transparent about how many you intend to let in and how many applications you've accepted. And then that will help people to preset their own expectations, and you'll have less outrage in your server on the day you do your clan announcements. Second thing, I talked last week about these roster violations and should you check and do they matter and is it dishonorable? And I realize that I am just not, I am on the opposite side of this issue to many of you, but I had a couple of additional thoughts on it that I wanted to point out. One of which is that if roster violations are not something that you're catching during the group stage, you're actually not helping out the clans that might make it to playoffs, because somebody's going to catch it in playoffs. And if you've literally been playing with the same player for 5 weeks of a group stage and nobody has noticed that they're not on your roster, and then somebody notices it in playoffs, it seems like it's really super unfair. And yet it also seems like there's a rule issue there. So as much as I just think that you actually do your competition a favor in the long run if you look early. You really don't want a clan making it to playoffs thinking they've got an account on their roster that they don't have. The second thing I wanted to point out is the thing that makes this rule so unpalatable to everybody, I think, isn't the fact that we actually have rules about rosters. I think it's that the way it's been implemented is that clans have to police their opponents. And that makes it seem like you're either being petty or overzealous or whatever. But I also think that the technology exists where this does not have to be something that's policed by an opponent. When you take this decision making about the roster away from your opponent and put it in the hands of the tournament organizers, suddenly it becomes less about pettiness and trying to get free wins and more about just get your accounts on the roster. So the technology exists. It's not that difficult to get the data out of the Supercell API about a war and about which accounts are spun in a war. And it's not that difficult from a technology perspective to compare that to whatever roster might be submitted. So I really would like to encourage everybody who's running leagues and tournaments who have these roster rules, try to take those out of the hands of the opponents to police and put it into the hands of your tournament staff. Let your staff do that so that you don't end up pitting the competitors against each other from a rules and roster standpoint, in addition to having them focus on their in-game performance. I think that ends up taking a bunch of the emotion out of this and it becomes much more clear. So that's my piece of advice, and I think that'll finish my rant on rosters. You won't have to listen to it again next week. Thanks much. I'm Christine the Mean. We'll see you again here next week.